so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads. Welcome to a very special episode dedicated to none other than you, the P-heads themselves. I am your P-head enthusiast and hostess for the day, Alexa Hauser. I have been blessed to have the experience of helping out with Positive Head's social media for the better part of a year. And through my digital interactions, I began to realize, as did Brandon, that we have some incredible beings listening to this show who are taking the information that Brandon puts out through the podcast and using it to transform their lives and create wonderful things. You listeners are all a huge, huge part of the life force that propels this show forward through time and space, and we think it's time to bring forth some of you beautiful reflections and delve a little deeper into this collection of energy that is the Positive Head community. So as we shine the spotlight on our listeners, what we'll have them do is share their stories of how they attracted Positive Head into their life, the transformation it's facilitated for them, and what they're focused on creating now that they're in a more positive headspace. Also, this episode of the Positive Head podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Hello, all you positive heads. On this week's P-Head Posse episode, our guests are Positive Head listeners Christoph Zellweger and Lindsay Hurt. Christoph and Lindsay have been lovers for 5 years and currently live in Zurich, Switzerland. They're passionate about helping others create more fulfilling relationships, establish meaningful communication, and lead more empowered lives. Christoph is a life coach specializing in overcoming self-sabotage, and Lindsay works as a physiotherapist and Crossfit coach. Together, they're in the process of creating their own business called Growing Out Loud, where they facilitate events on how to have better relationships and offer coaching for couples as well as singles interested in finding real love. Hi, you guys. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Alexa.
Hi.
So nice of you guys to reach out and want to be a part of this and share your story. I know you've actually already interacted with Brandon and have some synchronicity through that. So I would love if you would share that story with us and how you came to find the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So it all started when I listened to a show with Brandon and Daniel Raphael. And so, I was listening to it and I thought oh gosh, I need to get in touch with Daniel because it sounded so interesting what he was talking about. So, I got in touch, but then he did, I sent him an email, but, never got something back. And then another friend who was also on the podcast, actually, Mark England of Vocabulary. He used to coach Daniel on, some of his language specific skills. And, so I'm in, I have a bit of a business relationship with Mark at the moment. And, I asked him, well, hey, do you know Daniel? And it would be really cool if you could introduce us. And so, that happened. And then long story short, Daniel went to this superhero academy, in the jungle of Costa Rica that I think on other podcasts, Brandon has already been talking about. And so, we met there, and then all of a sudden we were standing in line for getting dinner. And I just remembered, because I didn't see, I didn't know how Brandon looked like. And, but I remembered the voice, and I was going who is this guy? I know his voice, but I couldn't put, the name to it. And then all of a sudden I go oh yeah, that's the guy from Positive Head podcast. So, so it was really cool actually, because that whole, us meeting Daniel or me meeting Daniel and coaching him, that led just to a whole bunch of, different, let's say like life changes. One of them would be that I finished my job or quit my job to go full time on my life coaching endeavor. And so in the end, we ended up in Costa Rica, which then the next part of our story.
But that's where you introduced yourself to Brandon and
exactly
and thanked him for the connection. And that's really why we were there in Costa Rica for this amazing retreat that was pretty transformational for both of us.
Yeah. What exactly transpired there for you guys?
Lots. I guess we're going to get right in there then.
We'll get right.
Let's do it. Why not?
I'll share for me. It was on the way actually to this retreat. We were listening to a podcast, a friend of ours, Mike Bledsoe. And on this podcast, he shared a question that he uses sometimes in business, but also in his relationship. The question is there anything between us? And in that moment, in that podcast, they shared some really vulnerable stuff, some really personal stuff. And I was like, wow, that's really, really authentic, really vulnerable. And I really like that question. At the same time, in the car, I was thinking, oh God, please don't ask me that question. Because I was holding on to some garbage that, happened in the beginning of our relationship that, I hid so deep down. I was really quite guilty of or shameful for. And I buried it deep and swore I'd take it to the grave because it just wasn't worth, anyways. This came up in listening to this podcast on the way. This is coming up and I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? We're about to be at this amazing retreat. We're going to grow and learn. And this is coming up right now. And so I don't know exactly what to do, but I think, okay, you know what? I'm going to let him enjoy this time. And then the festival is after this retreat. So I'll tell him at the end. Envision Festival. I'll tell him at the end of this festival so he can enjoy the week, unless there's any sign from the universe that I need to do it earlier. Anyway, this energy is coming up and I can't push it down. And I'm just thinking, I can't believe it. So we meet all these amazing people on the Friday night. Then we take a boat out to Punta Mona. We have an amazing dinner. And the first night of our retreat, they separate the men and the women. The men go to the men's circle around the fire and the women go to this yoga chalet and have a women's circle. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, I'm already feeling emotional. And in this circle, I'm just crying because the energy was so strong there in Punta Mona and in Costa Rica. And I'm surrounded by these amazing, authentic people sharing their deep stories and beautiful singing and drumming and all this happening. And I'm realizing, oh my God, I've got to tell him tonight what I'm holding on to. And I just can't believe it. And anyways, it was a beautiful, beautiful moment. And, at the end of the circle, a girl came up to me and just hugged me like a mother hugs a child. And I just cried my eyeballs out for, a good 30 seconds and knew what I had to do. And anyways, we went to the tent that evening. He had just come from the men's circle, which was really powerful for him as well. And we sat in the tent and I said, babe, I have a lot to say. And, so he just lay there. He said, go on. And he's holding me and I'm crying. And I tell him about these 2 one-night stands that occurred in the beginning of our relationship when we were in different countries that are very much old pattern Lindsay, old, relationship stuff that I did. And I couldn't believe that in this amazing relationship, I could do it. And so I was really hard on myself for a good 4 years about this and vowed to never tell him. But anyway, so I tell him and it was the most difficult conversation I thought I would ever have. I was so fearful of so many things, but as I let it go, it was the most freeing experience of my life because I'd never been that close to anyone. And I can honestly say, as I dumped that, there was absolutely nothing between us. And that was an amazing feeling. Now, 2 things happened that I never thought possible. One, he was still holding me in that moment. And 2, he even smiled a little and he said, I am so glad you let that go. I can't imagine how that must have felt to carry that for so long. And anyways, in that I can't even express to you how deep and connected I felt even more to him, which I didn't even think was possible because we really feel we have this most amazing connected relationship. And yeah, so between that evening and the next day, we did some naked mud bathing, along the beach with a bunch of other people. Like those two things were the most freeing moments of my life. It was amazing. So that's how my week started. And it was, it was so amazing how we were surrounded by a group of people that in the first evening, we all kind of shared our shit, our worst things about each other, and still honored each other and respected each other. And that was amazing to be surrounded by a tribe or a community where they already knew your stuff, and so it can't get any worse than that, and they still love you. And it was, well,
even more so.
Even more so.
That was so cool because, there was nothing there was no kind of mask or something that you had to put on or to front because, they already knew your deepest, darkest shit anyways. If you chose to share, obviously, but that was so cool. And so, whenever you met someone that you haven't met before, because there were, I think, around 110, 111 people. And obviously, you were in this spot, which was relatively big, but still you'd always run into like many people. And so whenever you started a conversation, there was no like, oh, what do you do? There was more like, okay, so what are you passionate about? What are your dreams? What are your goals? So it was just very uplifting.
What are your biggest learnings in life? What are your biggest failures? It was awesome to have those conversations.
Yeah, it was really.
In your men's circle, that was.
Yeah, and in the men's circle as well, there was, so we were, with 50 or 60 men around the fire, and the guy who facilitated it, just led into it and just had this beautiful story about, how men, and for time immemorial, they, sat around the fire and they shared their stuff, they shared their shit, and there was just this somewhat like a ritual, almost like maybe like a societal valve where, you can let go of the stuff that is just heavy on you and share it with others so that it can be, let go of. And I find that, in today's society, or at least in the Western society and where we have lived, that just is not really the case, or there is no such space where this happens. And so in that night, the story that were shared were like powerful, and sometimes really, really sad or really horrible, of abuse and
sometimes they shared things they had never shared in their life before. Like some of these guys was the first time. And I should preface too, like my story right before, for the last 4 years, I have to admit that I had been feeling like not great in my body, like something's just off. I'm really unclear about things. I was really like, do we want to have kids? Do we not? Do we want to stay in Switzerland? Do we not? Like I was so on each opposite end of the spectrum that I couldn't even take an action. And right before Costa Rica, I had done a gut health test in California and found out that, my system was totally inflamed. The kidneys, livers, adrenals, all in the red zone. Toxicity was high, like all these things that don't typically show up on a regular like blood check test. And as much as I think those episodes that I was holding on to didn't affect anything, possibly, I believe they were, it really affected my health, my sleep, it was stirring in my body. It's in your consciousness. And, so to release those things, gosh, it was so powerful. And so I can't imagine, some people that have held on to stuff since childhood, and they're trying to forget or, block or whatnot. But it was so amazing to be in a community of people that, that was totally accepted. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. And we learn from each other, support each other, and move on. It was great.
Yeah. Wow. That's wait, guys.
A lot of information.
Sorry. No. Wait, Danny, if you're listening to this, you're gonna have to edit this only because just from right now. Only because I don't know why I just started echoing over there, and I can hear it's like right after I talk. Oh wait, now it stopped. Weird. Okay, it's okay. This is the beauty of podcasting. We can. What did you say?
I said, is it because we said shit like 2 times?
No. All of a sudden, I just was hearing my echo like right after I was talking, but it stopped. So, okay, we're good. Danny, you can. This is a note to the editor. Thank you for sharing that. That was so powerful to listen to. And I could feel both of your like the feeling of relief and release and, expansion that you got from that experience. And, Christoph, as you were talking about how, the space to share these stories and the space to, share with other people and be vulnerable with other people and kind of like put your shit out there. That really resonates with me. And as you were describing that, I was thinking about, because in our society today, it's like everyone has a place to escape to immediately. Like they don't, you can escape through your phone. You can, people are so quick to walk away and push away from anything that's uncomfortable, or numb, like with food, with alcohol, with drugs, with sex, there's tons of things you can kind of try to fill the void with. Right. And it just was reminding me of, every time that I think I've been at my happiest personally, it's after an experience where like Burning Man or like, I just went on this retreat, with Sonia Sophia, who's on the show quite a bit. Yeah. With a bunch of people who were all, learning to become EFT practitioners, but also just, we were in this house with, like, when no one was using their phones, we were all just kind of sitting around talking with each other, sharing. And it really is those experiences where you're with other people and you're actually connecting with other people, and there's nowhere to escape to. There's no, there's no phones to jump into. It's like you're there with them and people can feel that. And I think what you described, your experience and just in general is so important for, the evolution of like our species in general, just to come back together and be with each other and share with each other, as you described. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And that's something that we really, took home and also want to implement more here in the, let's say, more like not civilized, but more like, Western world, where, we realized when we were there, you don't need anything more, basically, but we had food, we had great people and great conversations. And that was that. At night, we probably slept 4 or 5 hours or even less. And we weren't tired because it was just so energizing just to be around those people and to have those, real connection and just that.
And everyone was so different and creative in their own ways. And this is why, we talk about lately that we would be happy to be part of some kind of community or commune or, as hippie as that sounds, like a sharing community, because I think that's something we've lost along the way. We no longer have tribes or community. We have, very isolated small families, and it's all about the individual. You go to the top of the ladder, you do it by yourself. You don't need anyone's help. You push down your weaknesses. You certainly don't share them. And it's so sad that, we've realized like, wow, we've never been so depressed. We've never been so suicidal, so addicted, so unhappy. And so now we're trying to go work backwards. And, being in this community was definitely, yes, we can do this. Like, this is awesome. And that's, if we were to have kids, we'd want them to be in a society like that or a community like that. And, we just met a girl the other day. Didn't meet her, but she shared her story about, being raised in a family of 17. Her mom had a partner and her dad had a partner, and they might have had partners as well. And in this family, it was so cool because one person was an artist, one person was a cook, one person was great at telling jokes, so you had all of your needs fulfilled by many people. You could learn all of these different things. And nowadays, I think we expect that from one person. We want this one person, this love of my life, to provide security, but also adventure. And we want this person to provide safety, but also risk. And, I want them to provide every piece of creativity and support, because we don't have those families anymore. We were leaving home when we're 18, and, I'm from the US. So that was certainly the way. You leave as soon as you can, and you do your own thing. And no way would I live with my parents. And so it's so interesting now to like think, wow, we might do it very different. If we're given that opportunity, or if that's something we decide to do. But
Definitely. That resonates with me as well. I've been thinking that for the past year, at least, like, oh, I just want to like live with a bunch of people. And in these experiences that I was just mentioning that I've been having recently, it's like, I've been experiencing that same thing you're talking about, of realizing like, wow, we all have these gifts and we all have these, different, skills and just natural abilities. And it's so amazing to be in a place where you're like, oh, you got that and I got that and I'm here for this. And we all kind of are different puzzle pieces of the giant puzzle. Like, you can feel how everyone kind of fits into, we're part of a giant puzzle, but we're all our unique individual piece. And that's awesome. And like, that's how we should be expressing ourselves and connecting with other people, through like our unique shape. And then you were just saying something else that resonated with me so much. Oh, about like relationships and expecting like one person to be everything for you, when really it's, life is multifaceted and there's so many different, and I think that is part of the, part of like the old paradigm of making us fear other people. It's like, oh, you got it. You can only really trust a couple of people, or, like you can't really trust many people. So basically like you kind of you learn, or even I learned to like keep my circle kind of small because, and so I've fallen into that quite a bit, like expecting everything to come out of this one person. And, I've really personally been going through the experience of learning, it's all me. Like, everything is about me, not about what I'm expecting out of somebody else. It's like, I'm not going to see anything from anyone unless I'm being it, right? And it can come through everyone. It can come through everything. Like, life is constantly trying to love us, right? And I don't know, that's just what I'm starting to learn. And so that what you said just really resonates. And I think that's, you guys, as you mentioned it, as we mentioned in the intro, you guys work with helping people with their relationships. What are, can you speak on that a little bit? What you work on with people, and maybe like some of the best things for the listeners to know about relationships?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's actually coming out of Costa Rica, that we realized, this is really what we're passionate about. We're really passionate about deep and meaningful conversations, as well as helping other people creating better relationships, whether these are relationship with your parents, with your lover, with your spouse. It doesn't really matter, but that's really where we also see our strength, where we, have done quite a bit of our own growing in our own relationship, as well as combined with, my knowledge in life coaching, and, seeing clients there and working with them one-on-one. You always see that there's always different, there's the individual in the relationship, but there's also the space between those two people that, needs some sort of, I don't know, what do we say? Like maybe guidance. And so we just realized that this is really, something that we feel really strong about. And so out of that experience in Costa Rica, we just realized, we just need each other. Like, that's what we need. All of us, we all need, sometimes we need someone, to help us and to support us every now and then. And we also need everyone to give from, their gifts and what they're really good at. And right now we're just building the business together. And so I quit my job and do the coaching part now full time. And on the side, I also work as a CrossFit coach. And Lynn's also just quit one of her jobs so that we can start this together. And so I think what we a few things that just ring true to us in our relationship is one thing, which we took out from the 4 agreements, is to not take things personal. That, for me at least, personally in this relationship is probably the biggest thing, or the biggest learning that I always keep coming back to whenever there is a disagreement or something that maybe Linz did that I didn't expect or whatever. I always go like, okay, it has nothing to do with me. And and that was exactly in that moment, when she shared those 2 moments in the tent. That was exactly that. because, you can just see that, it has nothing to do with me. It wasn't, she didn't do this to me or to hurt me. That was not the case at all. It was really about, it was stuff that she was going through that maybe she had to work through. She had to, really, get a grip on what that meant for her and why she did that. And, and for example, like as an example there, the next day or 2 days later, we could really talk about it and, really kind of, go dive into it and see like, hey, what was it about those two guys? Like, tell me about it.
What was I missing maybe, or what's missing in me that I'm trying to get externally by putting myself in those situations, because they were, not conscious decisions. They were, too much to drink, and why would I put myself in that situation? This is a repetitive pattern. And so it's so cool to have your best friend to like dig into that with. I've never had that before. And I've been in, quite a few relationships. But
a disclaimer, I must say, there was a time where I was upset. I mean, I think a day, 1.5 days later, so I was really upset for a couple of hours about it. But because I was going down those, the pattern thing is like, this is not right. How can she do this? And really kind of drove myself into that negative state. But, then you snap back out of it, and what's so cool, I can then tell my partner that, look, I'm just upset, and I know it's my own shit, but I'm upset about this, and, I just need my space now, or I just need to, think about it. And that's how I am. Usually I'm quiet. I try and go within and see what it actually is that's really upsetting for me, and then come out and really talk about it and, discuss it with my partner. And I think so often what happens in relationships, and also what you can just see with little snide comments, it's that, people just project onto each other the things that they're not willing to look at themselves. And that's so often what just, like, you did this and you shouldn't have done that. And that makes me feel X, Y, and Z, when, well, actually it's in your responsibility to take care that you're happy. It's not your partner's responsibility to make you happy. I want to make sure that I show up in a relationship in a way that is already in a happy place, where I can already be the best version of myself, so that my partner, can be free and can express herself, and also have a bad day, and it doesn't ruin my day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's, the most expanded perspective of relationships. And I love that, because, there is a time, I think all of us have come up in a time where, and it's something that drives me crazy now to still see, it's kind of like this attitude of like, you hurt me, you're gone, like, bye, it's done. Like, and, and like I said, I have a lot of experience with that type of mindset. When I was younger, there was a lot of that back and forth, just like, oh, and you're done, or, oh, and I'm done. And it's this, when you become more conscious of, what this partnership really is about, then it becomes like crazy to look at it and just be like, oh, and you're just done? Like, you're just like, it's like with a friendship, for example, if you have a friend, they piss you off, you're not done. You get mad and maybe you like talk about it, and then you come back together and you have a good time again. And it's like, there's this thing with relationships, like romantic relationships, that's been in like embedded in our culture,
sure.
Like that it's different, than any other relationship, and that there's only, and if someone makes one mistake, it's done and it's irreparable. And and I just, and there's such a lack of compassion there. Like, there's such it's hurting ourselves. Like, by doing that, by cutting people off, it's like we hurt ourselves the most. And so, yeah, that's great advice for everyone. It's our own responsibility. And like, your partner is your partner. Like, it's like someone you're growing with. It's someone you're in it with, like, to make the mistakes and to grow together. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's really where, the relationships is also really the place where all that stuff, whether it's from the past, whether it's from a past relationship, whether it's from childhood, like that stuff really, can comes up because you live with someone so close, and if you're willing to really open up, like that stuff is just bound to happen. And so I think it would be so cool if in school, for example, when you're 16 or 17, when you get to that age where, you really, they have girlfriend and boyfriends, like how cool would it be if then, one subject would be, okay, how do I handle my emotional state? How do I handle a breakup?
How can we communicate clearly what we want and need? Like, how much time could we save if we started teaching kids at a young age these topics?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not playing these games that just hurt everybody.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. I've been becoming very conscious lately of the programming in myself of playing hard to get with everyone, not just my not just like my partner, but everyone. It's like when someone texts me, I've become so conscious of the fact that I have this thought that goes through my head. I'm like, oh, well, I'm not going to text them back right now because they're supposed to chase me. And the other day I was like, where is this coming from? Like, this is wild. So yeah, absolutely. Just, I think that it's so important. I think relationships in general are so important to be educating people about because that's like what life is. And we have so little education about that, so little education about how to treat someone and how to treat ourselves. And yeah, I absolutely agree.
And that's really funny, and we also think that business is mainly how can I connect with other people.
Yes.
I think more and more people, like everyone craves that human connection. Like that's
Definitely.
just, it's like a part of our very like physiological being. Like we need that connection, if a little baby doesn't get the connection to its mother, it dies.
Yes.
And so
absolutely.
This is it's like inside of us, inside of all of us, but then there is this weird societal thing and games, like you say, that we try and project something that is just, it's not real and it's not us, but we think we have to do it because the other person is doing. And imagine how cool it would be if just everyone was just completely okay. And just lately I listened to, I think it was Aubrey Marcus or so, he said that, and he said like, imagine if we could see and hear what other people think. At the beginning, it would be crazy. It would be like 2 or 3 days. No one would go out. Oh, you hear us?
Yeah, you dropped for 1 second, but say what you were saying again.
Yeah, so
imagine if we could hear each other's thoughts.
Imagine if we all could, hear each other's thoughts, and then for 2 or 3 days it would be horrifying because you just get the raw, uncut truth. And then afterwards, like, oh, that's just how we are. Like everyone is like that. It doesn't matter. Everyone is exactly the same. And that's also something that really, really was an experience again that I had at the men's circle around the fire. It didn't matter whether you were the CEO of a multinational, corporation, raking in millions and millions, or whether, you were just there to have a good time. It was so that we like that realization that we all have those gifts, all the things that we're passionate about, the things that we're really good at. But then on the other hand, we all suffer and we all struggle with the same things. The stories are different around the topics that we have a hard time with. But underneath, it's always the same. Am I good enough? That's like a big one. Am I worthy of love? Do I belong here? Or what do other people think of me? It's always the same, and it didn't matter at what level you are, on the outside and what other people saw in you. Like deep down, it's exactly the same, and that was so beautiful to see that we just, you connected with all those people and all those men just on a very personal and on a very close level. And after that, it really felt like they were my brothers. That's like literally how it felt. And that was the first evening,
Yeah.
And so really out of that, what we now just had an event last weekend was that we wanted to bring back part of that idea and part of that emotions that we both felt there. We wanted to bring it back and see, hey, can we recreate that, environment here in the city?
We create a space.
Yeah, can we create a space where this is actually possible, where you can, authentically connect and relate with other people and share the things that, is we are carrying around, and that we really, can see the other people in person for who they are.
And remind people that, we can do that anywhere you are. And it's what an amazing feeling it is, and how instantly connected you are as soon as you hear someone's story. And reminded how beautiful people are, that we're all here for the same reasons and struggling the same things. And
just to piggyback off that, it's because I experienced almost that exact same thing when I was at this retreat that I mentioned, and it's the feeling of being seen and heard. Like you don't
acknowledged.
Exactly. Like you don't realize, or I didn't realize until I was sharing and people were sharing so vulnerably with me, as you guys described, you had the same experience. I didn't realize that, this is what it's like to feel seen and heard. Like this is what it's like. And the reason that we don't feel seen and heard normally is because we don't feel safe enough to share. Like we don't feel like there's a space for it. And maybe even if we try, it's like I said before, people are kind of ready to duck out the second it gets uncomfortable. So, we're not sharing, and therefore we're hiding a bit, and therefore we don't feel seen and heard. And we don't feel authentic a lot of the times, because like that's how we get to our authenticity, I feel like. So that's amazing. Did you say you're creating a space, or you have the idea for a space to do this? Or?
That's what we just started here in Zurich with something that we call the Intimacy Lab.
Ooh, I love it.
We pick a topic or a theme, and we're going to try for once a month. We do a little, workshop or so. And so last week was on connection. And so we brought a lot of, the stuff that we did in Costa Rica to this small group. It was a group of about 20 people or so. And it was awesome. And we received some really great feedback about it. And we'll continue to do that, things like that, wherever we go, whatever city we live in. That's the Intimacy Lab will come with us. It's, it's so energizing and feels awesome to do. You just want to give, and it lights everyone up. You can tell.
And so another cool, go on.
Oh no, you go.
So, one little exercise that we did was like, well, what do I need right now? What's my ask? And it was really interesting to, when we then after the exercise asked in the group, well, what did you notice during this exercise? How was it for you? And there's so many people said, wow, it was really hard. It was really hard to actually say what I need or say what I want at the moment. There was one guy who said, like, I said about 3 or 4 different things, but they were never about me. There was always like why I didn't need help. And
he realized,
wow. Yeah.
In his family, he was raised to never ask for help.
Yeah.
You don't ask for help. That's a sign of weakness. You do it yourself or independent. And I think that's a very common theme, because there's many people.
It's true for me as well.
Yeah. It's difficult to ask for help because, we think it is a sign of weakness. And it was really powerful exercise.
And so the cool thing after that was that, we, just the group said, like, it's so funny how we always want to give, but then when something comes back, we block it. So it's like just this, like the yin and yang that should always flow and should always be in balance. But no, like one side was just like, no, I don't need this.
I can't receive that.
I can't receive that because, it would be too much, or, I'm the giver. And that is and
that's also hurtful to the person.
Exactly.
Absolutely. That's sorry. I keep relating this to my experience because everything that you're saying is just so parallel. But so there is that's amazing to hear, and it reminds me of this exercise that we did which was, I didn't expect it to be this hard, but it was so difficult, where we were matched up with a partner and we had to sit very close to each other, facing each other, and we were tasked with, one of us was to give the other person compliments about themselves for like 5 minutes, and then we would switch. But we had to give the compliments to them one at a time. And each time we gave the the other person the compliment, they had to sit there, like literally take it into their body, like let it resonate, let it land in their belly. And then they had to repeat it, like, thank you for noticing that I have beautiful eyes, or that I'm whatever the compliment was that we said. And it was so viscerally hard for both, in my experience, I mean, and everyone there, but in my partnership, it was like the first 3 compliments, it was like the body was like, no, I will not take this in type of thing. It was like shaking, like on both of us. It was like, you could see the resistance. And then finally, after like the 4th compliment, the tears start coming, which is always, you know, like releasing resistance. And it's finally landing. And the best part about this exercise that we did was, in the beginning, they gave us each a mirror and they said, look at yourself. Before we gave the compliments, look at yourself and say, I love you. And when I looked in the mirror, I just immediately was like, oh, I'm looking at all the flaws about myself. I'm like, oh, my hair, my skin, this, that. And it was really hard to look at myself. And after we did this exercise where we actually had to both let these compliments land inside of our bodies and actually take them in and acknowledge them and receive them fully, then we were asked to look again in the mirror at the end. And it was like, when I looked at myself, I didn't see one flaw. I saw beauty, and it was like, I felt like I was on psychedelics. Everyone there looked like they were on drugs just after 5 minutes of receiving a compliment, like actually receiving it. And it shows you, like you're saying, it's like we don't know how to receive. And when we finally do allow ourselves to receive, it's so nourishing. Like, it's so healthy and nourishing and energizing for our bodies.
Yes.
So, yeah.
We're going to steal that exercise.
For sure.
Okay, well, give the credit to Sonia Sophia. Sorry, Sonia. No, she'll probably want it spread. Yeah, no, it's a good one. It's a really good one. I would highly recommend it. And it shows you, very quickly the power of just receiving. So, oh, wow. So, yeah. So what are you guys are working on this space now? And you kind of described the business that you're growing out loud, right?
Right.
And yeah, do you want to, is that something that's like up and running? Is that something like people are you doing coaching through there, or how's that all working? How can people contact you?
Yes. So the website is up. It's a first version, really. Because we need to, we want to focus a little bit more on what exactly it is that we're offering. But yes, it is about helping couples just creating more intimate, more thriving relationships. The website would be growingoutloud.org. And so people can go there. There's a picture. We explain a little bit what it's all about, and then they can send us an email through there if they're interested. And if they hear it on the podcast, they'll just get a 20% off if they choose to work with us. And so how it usually works is we have 1 hour where we just get to know each other, where we just talk, and where we just see how we can support that couple. Because we
determine if they're a good fit.
Yeah, if they're a good fit, if we think that works out, because I think that's very important. Also from working with some of the one-on-one clients that I have, that's something that I've just learned a little bit, that it's important to have a good feeling about the other person, and that you can really dive deep with that person and feel that the other person wants that as well.
Definitely.
So,
and there you'll see, any of our upcoming events. And we have a little retreat planned for July here. Yeah. And with the Bledsoes, they'll be coming to visit, and that will be pretty awesome. And so things like that, we just want to put together as much as we can, like to give this to people and help everyone find a little bit more love and fulfillment. And when people have that, like we said, in our trip to Costa Rica, just don't need that much. And you start to really realize, like, wow, what am I doing just out of patterns, out of program behaviors? Am I waking up to an alarm and going to this job that I hate and working with this boss that doesn't treat me well or acknowledge me or see me? Like, is this what I'm meant to do? We want that kind of wake up and those kind of realizations. And
definitely. Yeah. Well, that's great. Everybody check out growingoutloud.org. It seems like you guys have just a lot of really great stuff happening, and you have just infectious energy all the way through the podcasting waves. I can just like feel the love over there. So it's really awesome, and I'm excited to see what you guys do. Just like a couple more questions here, because you guys are so wise. What's one thing you think would benefit every P head to know or understand as they continue on their own journey?
So for me, again, it would be what I said before, to, in general, not to take things personal. That has helped me in so many different situations. It has, like another example that I can give is when, before I did the life coaching, I was 7 year a software developer, so something very different. And, this one day, a guy comes into my office and you can tell he's quite upset, and, he knew that what he was complaining about was mainly my work. And he came in and just bashed my whole work and said, like, it's nothing, it doesn't work, it's bullshit, and was really quite abusive. And so when he came in, you can see that, okay, something's going on. And so you kind of can prepare that, okay, some shit might be said, and it's not meant, and it's just, he's upset because some of the points that he made were actually points that I was working on in the moment. So, yes, it's true. Like, it doesn't work the way it should. So, I'm fixing it. Anyways, I just let him speak. And then, when he was done, I said, okay, so, what else is there? Is there anything more that you're worried about, or that doesn't work? And so in the end, it turns out it wasn't at all about that the software didn't work as intended. It was about that people came into his office and basically told him that his part of the software wasn't working, and that they were upset with him, and that he had to always explain, oh no, go to these guys. So it wasn't, and so like, okay, cool. And now we have this other issue that we can address, and less. And so that was just so cool to try and sometimes to get into that meta position and not take the things in and just hear for what they are, taking the information.
Yeah.
But then, allow the other person to explain a little bit more. And that's also something that, we do whenever we're upset or whenever something coming up. It's like, okay, what else is there? Tell me more. And that just opens up so much. Yeah. So whenever, that, to me, like that one thing, not taking things personal, as well as just asking for more information when a person, is seemingly, coming at you or trying to, be mean to you, and just see what happens. And it's like in many situations in my life, it's been, oh, wow, like you end up at a completely different place than when you try to wrong them or when you try to give back or get back at them. Like that's just, I find that's just not working.
Yeah, for me as well, it's like something come from a place of inquiry, like always be interested in that question that you ask me all the time. What else is such a good question, because it just gives you space to like blurt out anything else that's going on. And you learn a lot. And another thing for me, I think I learned at an early age, practicing as a physical therapist in nursing homes and hospitals. I did that in Atlanta for about 6 years, and I learned, I worked with people at the end of their life, and what all they had was their little room, their hospital gowns, their wheelchair, a couple of picture frames, maybe some cards. But at the end of the day, the only thing they had was memories of, their relationships. They were not sitting there thinking about that nice fur coat that they had or the boat that they drove. They didn't park the boat outside, they're now in diapers and a gown, and all they looked forward to was people, is meeting people, seeing their important people in their lives. And so I learned at an early age how important, nothing else really matters. Like I used to have a walk-in closet, which way too many clothes, and that's just unnecessary. And anyways, so I learned great valuable lessons from working with people near the end of their life. And the other thing is also from the 4 agreements, I think, don't make assumptions, right? I catch myself so often in a place of judgment. And I often, we all do it. You make a quick judgment on somebody, and then you hear their story and you're like, oh my God, I was so wrong. why, I don't know why we do that, but I just encourage all the P heads out there, to be open and interested. Just get interested in the fellow human beings and give them a chance and find out what's going on. And you'll learn some awesome.
Definitely. Very, very, very wise from both of you. I think those are great pieces of advice. And, I like this community, especially all of us who are, the majority of us are empathic, I believe. It's like, I think we've spent so long in this old paradigm where there's so much kind of scary, dark stuff out there that we've all grown up in some way kind of trying to protect from other people, or at least this is my perspective. And so now it's a process of kind of coming into our power and coming back out into the world and being like, I want to connect with people while balancing my energy. And so, I think that really plays into the judgments and the kind of separation that we create between people. But now it's like the process of coming back together, which is really exciting. And, it's like people like you guys who are helping that process along, helping people understand other people and how to deal with other people and how we don't have to be scared, that we can find gems in everyone.
Big thank you guys for like sharing this stuff, finding those people and sharing it. I mean, that's just awesome. You guys are doing brilliant.
And it was also cool to see Brandon, those days where he was there always, talking to people and then sometimes interviewing people. Yeah. And I always go like, how cool that, it was just something that sometimes you don't even know that what you're doing actually matters. And I think that's something also that I've, I guess, just taking full responsibility for your life, that everything you do, you can either go, nothing matters what I do, or everything that matters what I do. And so if you take, the right way, you take full responsibility, then all you do and everything that you do, has some sort of impact. Yeah. And so it was so cool to see Brendan, work with those people and creating that. And just as it had such a big impact when I heard this, I don't know, like 2 years ago or so, I heard the interview with him and Daniel that led to all, that plethora of events that have unfolded now that we're here today, that is just wonderful. And, that just happens in everybody's life.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing how something so simple can lead to so much. And, I mean, I was attracted to this podcast the same way that all of you were, everyone who I've been interviewing and every listener out there. I mean, I came to it the exact same way. And I love thinking of this podcast as kind of like this hub that's been sending out some sort of, signal to calling all the people, who are ready to help make this transition and shift this paradigm. It's really just, and even just talking to you guys now, it's like, I feel like I've known you forever. Like we haven't even seen each other's faces, but I'm like, I want to spend time with you guys. I want to like talk to you more.
Like besties now.
Yeah. So now I'm going to have to make a trip to Zurich, but but yeah, it's just, it's a beautiful thing that Brandon's created. And Brandon, if you're listening to this, I appreciate it just as much as the listeners. And I appreciate you guys and getting a chance to connect with you. We've been trying to plan this for like a month, and I'm glad that it finally happened. And this was just an amazing conversation. And just one more question before we sign off here. Yeah. Do you have an intention for 2018?
We didn't set one at least I didn't set one at the beginning. I know I don't believe so much in the intention for the year. Because for me it can change as time unfolds.
Yes.
But right now, if I would set one, it would definitely be just be more open to receive and work easy.
Indeed.
In a sense that like I'm trying to really find a balance between making things work and figuring it all out. How, this whole working by myself and being self-employed, how, all the pieces fit together. And at the same time, part of the reason why I wanted to be my own boss was also to, to have the time and to be able to spend the time exactly how I wanted to spend. So it's really, it's something that I'm definitely also struggling at the moment with. But yeah, that would be my intention for right now.
Awesome.
Something for you?
Yeah, it's tough. I think I guess for me, my intention for this year is really to focus on the self and trusting my intuition and really trying to listen to my heart and not the monkey mind.
Absolutely.
So it really try to heal and, to work on the things that, why my gut health is so upset. I have a crazy schedule. I'm up at different times every day, and we eat late because we coach late, and some things that aren't serving me to be my best self. So that's really my goal for this year. My intention is to focus on that so that I can give as much as possible.
Beautiful intentions. I think we all could share those same intentions. And I resonate with that. My intention right now is to listen to myself, and it's the hardest thing to do, but I'm trying. I got a tattoo the other day spontaneously that says listen on the left side of my body. So I'm trying. Wow, this was really amazing, and I'm so happy we could find time to do it. And thank you both for sharing your story and being so vulnerable. I know that the listeners are really going to resonate with this.
Cool.
Thanks so much. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. It was awesome.
Oh,
awesome.
Cool.
Journey well. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Night.
That's it for this week's episode. If you're a listener with a story to share and are interested in being featured on a future episode of this special series, you can email me at alexa@positivehead.com. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear Brandon constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place we know of to do it. Period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Otherwise, tune in next Friday for another P-Head Posse episode. And until then, as Brandon always says, journey well.